Welcome along to Betting Weekly Live. You with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Sean Calvert. Over the course of the next half an hour or so, we're going to be talking our way through the action in Turin and the ATP Tour finals. We've got one match to look at for you today, and Sean has kindly agreed to take a bit of a deep dive into the two tomorrow. We've got the latest EPL futures prices for you after the weekend results. Another defeat for Manchester City, of course, and we'll touch on where the money's going when it comes to the NBA. We'll also let you know the latest prices for the Monday Night Football as well in NFL. And we've got some trends and some betting information when it comes to the Argentine top flight league leaders Vélez Sarsfield in action tonight as they aim to go clear of the nearest rivals Huracán with 5 games to go. And you can share your winners with us. Tag us in at Because We Win and let us know what you're betting. Let us know what you fancy. The comments are open for myself and Sean to answer. Sean, how are you? A rare appearance for you on Betting Weekly Live.
Yeah, I do a few of these, don't I? Normally when there's an international break and there's no football on. And luckily the tennis is on. End of season knockabout, as I disparagingly call it. The tour finals in Turin. Yeah, it's always nice to come on, do this, something a bit different presenter. Look, it's different to looking at Nigel the whole time. I get to see you this time. We don't get to hang out much, do we? So this is quite cool.
Look, we sort of catch up on the Christmas do, and that's about it, which is coming up in a few weeks' time. When this show was announced with yourself, and I thought, well, there's probably going to be one game in play when we come on air here because I wasn't sure about the Alcaraz Ruud game. But Carlos Alcaraz, I've got to get your reaction to this first and foremost. Losing his straight sets here to Casper Ruud. I mean, what price was Ruud? About plus 700 and about plus 1400 to win his straight sets. What do you make of that result? Earlier.
I think he was about 8 or 9 to 1, wasn't he? Something like that. He was certainly a big price. I don't think anybody would have called that. Casper Ruud came in here, dreadful form, unbeaten a top 20 player since the French Open. Not a player normally you would expect to play well on a quick indoor hard court like this one at altitude. But I think Alcaraz had a bit of a cold. I think there was an issue because Ruud said after the match, he knew that Alcaraz was struggling with a cold. He saw him sneezing and snuffling and coughing, all the rest of it. So, he may have been slightly under the weather. That seems to be the case because he produced the stats. I mean, it was an awful performance. He played all right in the second set. The start of the second set went 5-2 or 5-3 up in the second set, and I kind of drifted off a bit then because I thought, this set's done. He's back in it. 5 minutes later, he's lost 4 games in a row, and Ruud serving for the match. I think he hit 34 unforced errors, which, if you break that down, that's 8 games. It's 8.5 games he's given his opponent in unforced errors. And quite a few of those were drop shots. Anyone that's seen Alcaraz play, even reasonably regularly, will know that he loves a drop shot, does Carlos. And he couldn't get them right at all. He was putting them in the bottom of the net. He was putting them too high, so they were bouncing up and easy for Ruud to get. Yeah, it was just a poor performance. I mean, it could be the case that he was just sick, and if you've got a bit of a flu, a bit of cold, yourself, it's not, feeling a bit under the weather. That's sometimes all it takes. Ruud was pretty good, but he wasn't. It's not like Ruud came on the court and he was absolutely awesome. He was all right, but decent. He played the right way, attacking tennis that you've got to do on an indoor hard court. But for me, Alcaraz, very below par performance, and maybe that's because he was sick.
Yeah, Duncan Evans says that Ruud is a curious player. Can be very good, can be very bad in equal measure. We're going to get to... go on, Sean, sorry.
Yeah, it's been more of the very bad since the summer, really.
Do you think the season's just caught up with him?
He always does this, Casper Ruud, because his main priority is clay. He puts a big effort into the clay swing in sort of April, May, then the French Open. As I said, he hadn't beaten a top 20 player since the French Open. And it's always the same with Ruud. He hates the grass season. Doesn't trust the grass, hates playing on it. So that's a write-off for him. It sometimes perks up around the US Open season, but this year he didn't. Last week he was supposed to play in Metz, and he didn't turn up there in Metz until about a couple of hours before his match. He was at some awards ceremony. So it's not unusual for Casper Ruud to have a poor second half of the season, to be honest, no.
We are going to get Sean's thoughts on the next 3 games in the action Turin. 1 today, as we mentioned, and 2 tomorrow. We'll do that a little bit later in the show when it comes to the 2 tomorrow. We'll get his thoughts on the game a little bit later today, shortly. But it is Monday. We like to look at the latest EPL futures after the weekend action, just to let you know how the Bet Rivers traders are shaping the market. And we have got new favourites in the shape of Liverpool, who are favourites for the first time this season, plus 140 now to lift the title under Arne Slot. It would be some achievement if Liverpool could do it. But with Manchester City faltering, Arsenal failing to win again, they're both plus 250. 9 points behind now, Arsenal, after 11 games. No side has been that far behind at this stage of a Premier League season and gone on to win the title. So is it Liverpool's to lose? Would they be called bottlers from here on in? I don't know. Chelsea are now 20 to 1, as you can see. You can sort of forget the rest, but there's a little bit of jostling when it comes to top four market as well. The Bet Rivers traders like Chelsea minus 139, Spurs after their defeat to Ipswich, plus 275 with Villa. Defeat at Anfield, of course, plus 500. Newcastle slightly short after their good win at Forest, plus 450. And the other end of the table, well, Ipswich, with that first win of the campaign, no one really predicted their success away at Spurs, minus 177 to go down. Saints, minus 625, and Leicester still minus money at 137. I know, Sean, that you are not a follower of a Premier League side, but you are a follower of West Brom.
I am.
Who finally got after about a zillion draws. They're plus 330 to go up. You backing your team to be promoted?
No, not really. There's a lot of problems at West Brom. It's money started it, and now it's kind of we're in a situation. We're a bit of a team in transition, really. Corbrand plays the way he plays. You know, anyone that's seen a Corbrand side play, it's the same thing: backwards, sideways, forwards, backwards. Eventually create a chance, miss it, start all over again. We've only got one striker really. Josh Maja is the West Brom striker. He was injured all last season. He's the goals basically. If he's not scoring them, where are they coming from? We've got Tom Fellows on the right wing, who's a really good prospect, but people know about him now, doubling up on him, marking him out of the game. It makes it tricky for him to make an impact. We'll probably make the playoffs, but we're about a sort of playoffy sort of side. I don't think it's a particularly strong division this year, in all honesty. But we've got a chance. I think we'll probably finish top. We'll probably get in the playoffs. I don't know about going up. That's. I think a lot might depend on what we can do in January, if we can do anything, because our hands are probably a bit tired financially.
Plus 330 to go up. That includes a playoff win, incidentally, and 16 to 1 if you think that West Brom are going to win the league, but at least to win at the weekend, Sean, against Hull.
Just. I saw it. Oh yeah, it was a seat of the pants stuff again.
Let's talk tennis, because that's why you're on the show, and we're going to first of all just have a look at the prices, or focus on the game that starts a little bit later today. This is going to be around about 1:30, I think, Eastern. Zverev against Rublev is the game that's coming up first and foremost. Rublev is only in, I think, isn't he? Because Djokovic isn't here. Zverev has done well here in the past. Just before we get into it, I know there's a bit of a crossover. There's one or two people who are watching today that maybe don't watch the tennis shows. Just remind us what this tournament is and what the format is for those who don't know.
Yeah, it's the top 8 players in the race, which is basically the ranking points they've won this season. The top 8 automatically qualify. Novak Djokovic has pulled out, so it's the top 9 minus Djokovic, basically. My opinion on this is it hasn't changed much over the years. It's an end of season exhibition with a ton of money and a load of ranking points, which makes it appealing for the players. But these guys have been playing for 11 months of the year. I don't know whether you know off the top of your head a sport that goes on this long. A season is basically 11 months or 10 and a half months, 10 and 3/4 months. I can't think of one. I mean, football's what, 9 months?
Yeah, 10
like
months. I mean, golf, but it's not maybe as physically demanding or mentally demanding for the top players, at least. I don't know. I think
golf's a bit different as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once if you don't make the cut in a tournament, you're off. You're out of there. And I can't imagine the physical stress and strain on the body is that much. It is obviously, but not as much as tennis. Massively physical sport. And it's the top 8 players. They're brought out at the end of a very long season to entertain the crowds that pay quite a lot of money to watch them. Sometimes oftentimes it's a bit of a letdown. I can't remember too many matches. I've been watching this tournament for many years. I can't remember that many matches that will live that long in the memory. You know, it's for me, it's about money. It's about the ATPs kind of having a bit of a glamour event, a lot of razzmatazz, a lot of money, a lot of ranking points. That's what it is.
Rublev is the cry from GRC on the comments. Duncan says Zverev 2-0. Bradley says, no, Steve, not today, but he'll be on the show soon, Bradley. Don't worry.
He'll be back.
That says surely Zverev's not sick today. Give us your thoughts on the Zverev-Rublev game then. Any value in the money line? First of all, we've got Rublev plus 265, Zverev minus 335. I mean, we've had 3 games so far, Sean, and two of the dogs have won, haven't they?
Yeah, I had a nice winner with Taylor Fritz against Medvedev yesterday, in fact. Did somebody say Zverev was sick? Did I just read that correctly?
That's the comment from Disky Stats, who said,
is that a
Sean,
statement?
Is Zverev not sick? It's a question. Okay. Is he sick?
I hope not. Is the answer to that. I mean, he doesn't text me on as regularly as he used to, Alexander. I don't know. I mean, I hope not. I mean, obviously Alcaraz was. We didn't know that until after the match. Any value on the money line? Well, you could argue Rublev. He has actually won 3 of the last 4 meetings, Rublev, but they were all in 2023 when Zverev was coming back from you perhaps don't know, Dan, but he was coming back from a really horrific injury that he incurred at the French Open 2022, went over on his ankle playing Nadal, and he had to leave the court on a wheelchair. It completely, derailed him for well over a year. So Rublev's good record recently against Zverev was all pretty much when Zverev was feeling his way back to full fitness. And by the time 2023 had finished, Zverev beat Rublev here at this tournament in Turin. So the recent head-to-head probably a little bit misleading. But money line, no, I wouldn't be backing either of them on the money line is the short answer to your question.
Yeah, what about the spreads then? Plus 3.5 start for Rublev, or even the overs and unders when it comes to the total. Can you spy a bet for people tuning in the game that starts in a few hours' time, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I had a bit of a chat with Nigel about this the other day. Just looking at their head-to-head record, none of the 9 opening sets that they've contested has gone over 10 games. So that immediately brings in correct score bets, which Bet Rivers have a lot of these correct score bets in this particular tournament. So Zverev to win it 6-4 is a 4.1 chance with Bet Rivers. 6-3 is even bigger at 8.0.
Is that plus 700?
Plus 700, yeah. I think that's probably where I would go. Rublev doesn't have a particularly good record at this tournament. Let's just find his record. 31% win rate here, Rublev, and a service points won over 10 points, one total of 95, which is not great. For me, Rublev is he's never felt comfortable playing at this sort of tournament. He struggles with self-belief. He's talked about mental health issues that he's had. He gets, anxious and depressed, is what he's been talking about this year. If you've ever seen Rublev play, I don't know whether you have, but he frequently has meltdowns on the court and hits his hands with the racket or hits his knee with the racket and, struggles on the mental side of things. For me, his belief isn't there when he's playing these big players. On the other hand, Zverev does have a very good record at this tournament, 61% win rate and a service points won over 10 points, one total of 102. So this is a match Zverev should win for me. And the fact that Alcaraz has just lost today, we've got Zverev outright. That's got to be great news for not just for Zverev in this tournament, but for the fact that he might hang on now, probably will hang on now to the number 2 ranking. He'll be seeded number 2 for the Australian Open if all things go well. So from a Zverev point of view, he should be winning this. I hope he's going to win it. 6-4 for him in the opening set is probably where I'd go if I was having a punt on this one.
It's okay. That's the play. Nigel's Beyond says the court speed index has come out today and it's a lot slower than last year. Were we expecting a fast court this time around?
Sorry, mate, just having a glug of my tea there. Yes.
And who would that favour? Who doesn't it favour?
Well, this tournament in recent years, since it's been to Turin, it's been a very, very quick tournament, the quickest conditions of the year. The slight altitude here, 250 meters. It's not much, but the players talk about it quite a bit. So when you're playing at altitude, the balls do fly more than if you're playing at sea level. 38.3 is quite a lot slower, for example, than Paris last week, which was 46. But CPIs don't tell the full tale. There's no altitude at Paris. Obviously, there is altitude here, makes it a bit quicker. I did say at the start of our preview show, I did say that Sinner had said this court was slower this year than it was last year. Medvedev, who has played one match yesterday. He said it's still quite fast. He calls it medium or medium fast. I would say it's gone from being the outright quickest conditions of the year to just a little bit slower. So still some of the quickest conditions of the year. Although that CPI is low, the altitude does perhaps beef it up a bit.
We're going to get more from Sean on the games tomorrow shortly, but we have got a little bit of information to give from our friends at Bet Rivers when it comes to the NFL tonight and indeed the NBA as well. When it comes to the Dolphins at the Rams, you can see here on the money line, Rams are minus 143 favourites, the Dolphins plus 118. And just to give you some indication where the cash has gone ahead of this game tonight, and the money line, 78% of the cash and 69% of the tickets on the Rams. On the over and under, 82% of the money and 61% of the tickets on the over. And we've had a $5,000 play on the Los Angeles Rams on the money line, and it shifted the line from minus 135 to minus 143. So quite a lot of interest in the Rams for that game when it comes to the money line, and indeed the overs and unders, which is currently, as you can see, each of two with a line at 49.5. And just to continue on the action stateside, we have got some NBA action tonight as well. And once again, we've got some information as to where the money's been going for the NBA fixtures this evening. First of all, the Nets against the Pelicans on the money line, 85% of the money and 41% of the tickets on the Pelicans. Again, on the spread, the Pelicans is where the cash has been going. The Wizards at the Rockets, it's the Rockets that have been favored so far. But on the spread, the Wizards plus 13.5 are taking quite a lot of money. The Clippers, the Thunder, money line has come for the Clippers, or at least that's where the cash has gone. Likewise on the spreads, where the Clippers have been backed at plus 7. The Kings, the Spurs, most of the money on the Kings and also fancied on the spreads. And finally, the Cavaliers, the Chicago Bulls, 62% of the money, 88% of the tickets on the Cavaliers. And also on the spreads, the Cavaliers are fancied to cover a -8 handicap. Also, most of the money on the overs when it comes to the NBA tonight. There's plenty of action. Head to the Bet Rivers app, head to the Bet Rivers website. You'll see all the latest prices, lots of different markets when it comes to the NBA and the NFL. Let's bring it back to the tennis, because we've got a couple of games tomorrow that you can give us your thoughts on, Sean. I've got some details regarding where the money's going for these games as well. So tomorrow, it's going to be early hours, around about 7 a.m. I would have thought, for the first game up. Is it Medvedev, Minaur that's going to be first up, Sean, then Sinner Fritz after that? Let's get your thoughts on both of these two games. Medvedev, first of all, -130, Minaur +108. This is the closest on the money line, almost pick 'em, Sean. Can you split them for us?
Yeah, I kind of like Minaur here. I mean, a lot depends on the attitude of Daniil Medvedev here. You know, he was very petulant in his opening match yesterday against Taylor Fritz. And, you know, for me, I think he's still struggling with a long-term shoulder issue. He hit 8 double faults in that match against Taylor Fritz, and he's now hit 22 double faults in his last 5 sets of tennis. He pulled out of Vienna, which is another indoor tournament, which is played a couple of weeks prior to now. But surprisingly, he was fit and ready to play the Six Kings exhibition in Saudi Arabia, from which he earned a couple of million from. He was all right to play that. He was okay to play that. I mean, he got absolutely smashed by, I think it was Sinner. But he then pulled out of Vienna because he was too unwell to play, too injured to play. So, you know, read into that what you will. You know, he keeps talking about, he keeps saying things like, I'm fighting against things I can't control. And I think this is a veiled reference to this shoulder injury that he's had on and off all season. It seems like it's a chronic thing. You know, sometimes he's all right, sometimes he isn't, but he doesn't like to talk about it. I mean, a lot of the players don't, because, you know, you don't want to be telling your opponent, you know, I've got 40% shoulder here. So he doesn't mention it, but every now and again he pops up and he makes these veiled references to it. After the Fritz match, he said, I feel I'm at a great disadvantage, but I have to do something about it. That for me, again, is a veiled reference. It could be something else entirely, but for me, this is to do with the shoulder problem. De Minaur's had injury problems of his own, a hip issue since Wimbledon. But he looked all right against Jannik Sinner last night. He lost in straight sets, but he was playing against Jannik Sinner. And de Minaur's won 3 of his last 5 against Medvedev. If we look at the stats, last 10 main level matches each, neither of them are in particularly good form. As I say, both sort of struggling with injury. Medvedev service points won and return points won, total of 103, and only 45% second serve points won. That's well down on his normal form of a year or two ago. De Minaur's only on 101, so he's not pulling up any trees either. Again, injury problems. But if we look at what Medvedev's done this season, 2024, against the rest of the players in this World Tour Finals field, he's only got an 18% win rate, Medvedev, and the service points won over 10 points won, total of 91, which is very, very poor indeed. De Minaur, much better, 50% win rate, and the service points won over 10 points won, total of 101. So against the best of players in the world this season, de Minaur has been much, much better in terms of the statistics, in terms of win rates.
Are we saying there's a bit of value at plus money?
I think there's a slight hint of value on de Minaur. Yeah, a lot will depend on Medvedev's attitude. He could come in here thinking, well, I've had enough of this. This season's just been awful. I'm out of here. Or it could have, pricked him a little bit into some sort of, action. He could come here absolutely fired up, but I couldn't have Medvedev as favourite on current form and with this injury cloud. So if I was having a bet in this match, it would certainly be on de Minaur as the underdog. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Jean Swartz talking about that and talking about the fact that why doesn't Medvedev get some surgery? I mean, is there anything planned, off season? I mean, the off season is very short, as you've just said anyway.
Yeah.
I guess with tennis players, it's difficult to fit these things in. If you can still play, you can still operate and still win games. You don't want to take 2-3 months off or whatever it might be to get it sorted.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't say much, Medvedev. I mean, I don't even know if it is this. He does say a lot, but none of it is really about the shoulder. He's very cagey about it, as you would expect. My guess would be he'll probably have something done, in the next few weeks. If he does need surgery, I really don't know. But that would be the obvious time to do it, yeah, and give him a chance to get ready for Australia, yeah.
Disky says de Minaur plus 1.5. Nigel's been back on, says de Minaur could start favourite tomorrow. If our viewers here are thinking to get involved, now is the time. Maybe if people are on the same sort of train of thought, can you go off minus money?
I don't know about that. I guess it depends how many people back him, but there's no for me. There's no value in Medvedev at that price, at minus money on his current form and in his current mood. He's in a bit of a dark place at the minute. Medvedev, he wasn't too far away from getting defaulted against Fritz. He had a point penalty. If he'd have carried on, which he kind of did, he faked to sort of return the serve with the handle of the racket, didn't he? I don't know whether you saw that, but
no,
he was doing all that. Yeah, he'd really kind of lost it, and he was talking about retiring, not from the sport, but from that match. He was in a real mood. So yeah, not for me with minus money at the moment, the way he's been playing.
So no definitive pick in this game then.
I would pick de Minaur.
Yeah, okay. Rodrigo says, I was thinking of even going 2-0 de Minaur, honestly.
Yeah.
But as his service is pretty inconsistent, I thought it was too risky, but don't see Medvedev winning this one.
Sorry, mate. If he's in the same mood as he was against Fritz and he loses the first set to de Minaur, that might work out to be the bet, because I can't see him coming back at the moment the way he's playing.
Steve says, give us a player to follow for 2025. Have you thought of that yet? Have you got someone that might be under the radar?
I think Nigel's been talking a lot about Artur Fils. I don't know whether he's under the radar. He's probably not anymore. Mensik is a favourite of mine. Jakub Mensik. Fils and Mensik are two very, very good young players coming through. There's a lot of good young players coming through at the minute. I would say Mensik's probably more under the radar, so I think he could potentially win a Masters Series next year.
Let's talk about the late game tomorrow, the second game, which is Jannik Sinner against Taylor Fritz here. Sinner very, very short on the money line. Are we looking to the spreads here, maybe the handicap to get with either of these two? Sinner giving away 4.5 games, Fritz getting the start, plus 115, Fritz the favourite, minus 143, and the over and under games there is 21.5. Sounds like you've had a bit of success with Taylor Fritz already. What sort of chance has he got against Sinner? How would you play this one?
I think he's got a slim chance against Sinner, but I mean, perhaps the best chance is I'm not totally convinced Sinner's fully fit. In that match against de Minaur yesterday, he was kind of grimacing and holding his rib. This is a guy, the only question mark about Sinner has always been really over his physical stamina, his body, the robust or lack of robust nature of his body seems to break down, on a regular basis. If all things are equal, i.e. Sinner is fit, he should be too good for Taylor Fritz. They played in the US Open final, of course, recently. Service points won, every 10 points won, totals of that 110-90 in favor of Sinner. So a pretty comprehensive win there for him. He won 88% of his first serve points that day, Jannik Sinner, compared to just 68% for Fritz. And I mean, this is quicker conditions than New York, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it helps Taylor Fritz that much because his movement isn't brilliant. It's not bad, but it's not fabulous. And if you watch Sinner play on a court like this, a quick court, it's like a PlayStation tennis. It really is. It's something else. To keep up with him in the rallies, forehands and backhands flat, coming at you constantly deep and quick. It's very, very hard for the rest of these guys to keep up. I mean, Sinner was a bit rusty against de Minaur, but he still won 77% of his second serve points against de Minaur, who's a very good returner, by the way. And he won 80% of all his service points. So, I can't see Fritz being able to handle this. Again, if you were looking for a value bet, again, the set betting score is the first set score, is probably the market to go at. 6-3 to Sinner or 6-4 to Sinner. 6-4 is 3.75 plus 275 Bet Rivers, and 6-3 is 6.75 with Bet Rivers. So that's probably where I go. I mean, it's very, very short, isn't it, on the money line? Slight injury worry about Sinner, but I'd probably go with the correct score bet. And I can feel like a one break set is probably a highly likely to be the outcome here. So again, 6-3 or 6-4 to Sinner for me here.
Quick question for Sean from Surrey Blueprint, who says, I know you like Zverev to win the Tour finals, but Fritz has a better record against Zverev should they meet in the semis. Do you think that your particular pick might run into a little bit of trouble or not?
Possibly. Obviously, he lost to Fritz at the US Open. I mean, there was excuse for that. Zverev was suffering from pneumonia at the time, although, of course, he didn't tell us until later, and we were on Zverev, which was annoying. But he said he was playing through pneumonia, so he was a little bit below par. I would still fancy Zverev to win against Taylor Fritz. I mean, if Zverev wins this group, which I hope he will, he probably will play Taylor Fritz. But I'll be happy with that. I mean, I would think Zverev would be very keen for some revenge on Taylor Fritz, having lost him the last couple of times. So it doesn't overly worry me. I'd take that.
You've got around about 3 minutes or so, Sean, to give us to think about and then give us your best bet when it comes to the 3 matches that we've talked about, so we can leave our viewers with your best play. While you think about that, I'm just going to put up the Argentine slate. There's not a lot of top flight football knocking around at the moment, unfortunately, for us that like betting the soccer. That's because we've got the international break coming up. We've got lots of thoughts when it comes to the Nations League and World Cup qualifiers from Thursday onwards. But there is Argentine top flight football. I'm just going to rattle through 1 or 2 of the trends and indeed the prices that we've got on screen for you here. It's match day 22 of 27 with 303 games in to the Argentine top division. Vela's atop from Huracan. They play each other, incidentally, last day of the season. Everyone knows it's an unders league. The average goals per game this season is just over 2.03. Profitable strategies, home wins, draws, and under 2.5. If you've been backing away wins, you have done your absolutes here. Minus 89 points to 1 point level stakes. That's a minus return on investment of nearly 30%. With all that in mind, it may well pay to side with Deportivo Riestra against Vélez, the league leaders. Vélez are minus money to win away from home. Deportivo Riestra, who are a promoted side, but they've got a really good home record. They've won 8 of 11. They've only been once. That was back in May. They're third in the home-only points table. It's a tight ground in Buenos Aires. They're a very, very small club. And Vélez has struggled away to a certain extent. They've only beaten 4 teams away from home, none of which are currently in the top 10. Their expected goals is not great away from home. They've struggled just a little bit. They've only won 1 of their last 4, and that was courtesy of an own goal. So maybe the play could be Deportivo Riestra with a 3/4 ball handicap on the Asian line at just under even money, right about -103 at the moment. As regards the other games, well, I won't put anyone backing the home wins, as we've just mentioned. Those numbers are interesting. Lanús, Tigre, Argentinos Juniors, and Belgrano, they're all favourites to win their games. The overs and unders slightly bigger for the Vélez game away, and indeed the Tigre game at home. That's because Defensa Justicia are the side with the worst defense in the top flight, and Vélez have got the best attack, but they may struggle against Deportivo Riestra. We shall see. Ray Burke says he likes Vélez, but the home side are good on their patch. Good spot from Ray. That's the Argentine football that's coming your way tonight. We're going to give Sean the last word on the tennis. We've got 3 games coming up on your favorite event of the year, the ATP Tour Finals in Turin.
Yeah.
You've given us thoughts on all 3 of the matches. What's your favorite play? If I gave you a free $100 bet, Sean, on any of the 3 matches coming up either later today or indeed tomorrow, where would it go?
I would take the plus money the Bet Rivers are offering on de Minaur to beat Medvedev.
There you go. That comes up a little bit later on today. That's Sean's best bet when it comes to the tennis. More from Sean, of course, when the tennis season is on, which is pretty much every single week with Nigel and all of the tennis previews. That is your lot for Betting Weekly Live, though. The show is back tomorrow. We'll have a little bit more football chat. We'll be looking ahead to some of the Nations League fixtures as well. But from myself and from Sean, that is your lot for today. Thanks for watching.